I'm curious how we got where we got. What did they come to you with? How did we end up kind of where we ended up on this one?
You often have more yard than you think you do.
Yeah.
I would have failed you if you went to another pool, came back to me and said, Esteban, I wish you would have shown me that. When we can fit this into the budget for homeowners, there's nothing like it. We want to show people as many features as they may benefit from, and that was one of them. Of course, a lot of work goes into making sure that all these items that we're talking about make sense.
Esteban, welcome back.
I'm glad to be here.
This is not the first time you've been here with us on the Denali Deep Dive Podcast, right?
No, sir. No, sir. We've done this before, and I'm happy to be here again.
Yeah. We find ourselves in Lakeway, Texas today.
Absolutely.
Kind of far from the office. I think we're about an hour from the office, but we actually go probably another 30 minutes to 40 minutes south of here. So this is a big area. There's a lot of new houses out here. There's a lot of established houses as well, but you can see a lot of trees, beautiful lot, beautiful home. And we're at a pool today. Really neat use of the space. I just, when I got here, I walked the lot to see kind of what you were faced with. This is the first time I've been here. And it's only 45 feet from the back of the house to the lot line.
Yeah.
So not a ton of room to work with,
Yeah.
deep. The width of the lot is actually pretty large. It's 120 feet wide. So you had a really long canvas, but kind of not very deep. Wanted to visit with you today. I'm curious how we got where we got. It's a great pool. It's beautiful. Pool spa, big tanning ledge. Yep. It's got a faux negative edge, meaning the water doesn't actually spill over the back, that you can see the tile. Gives the look of a vanishing edge pool. And a great structure.
Absolutely.
Sunken bar, fire pit, TV, that kind of stuff. So I'm always curious how we get where we get, right? So much of it is driven by what the client comes to us with, what they expect, what their want and wish list is, and then as the designer, how we make that into reality. So yeah, that's kind of what I was wondering when I came in, when I walked into the space, was what did they come to you with? Like, what was their want and wish list, and how did we end up kind of where we ended up on this one?
Yeah, so with the dimensions of the lot, that's a pretty common thing that we find ourselves with, just because often you'll know the house often takes up a wider space than it is deep. So one thing that I tell people is you often have more yard than you think you do. Yeah. People think, man, I can't fit anything back there.
Right.
And then when it's all said and done, it fits perfectly back there.
Yeah.
And that was the case here as well, where, the fence wasn't originally there, but the space, that the tree line was always there. So it was just kind of perceived really small space. Or not very small, but a little bit tighter than most people may want. And to me, I look at that, I'm like, yeah, that's perfect. But to the homeowners, they start to kind of doubt how much space they can have between the house and the pool, how much pool they can get. And the thing about this pool is it's 18 feet wide. And the tanning ledge takes up a good portion of it. The tanning ledge is 6 inches of shallow space water. And the rest of it's swim lane, but it works out perfectly with what they're looking for.
Yeah, I was looking. There's room between the house for a beautiful planter bed with some yuccas, some butterfly bushes. Then you have the pool. And then behind that, you've got probably a good 12 feet, 10 to 12 feet of space that they've got some beautiful zoysia grass back there. So I think most of the time when people come in and say, man, I got a really small backyard, it's not very deep, I don't think I can get anything. I have seen very, very few lots where you couldn't.
Right, exactly. And that's
project back there.
That's why usually I go in with confidence. Like you probably have more.
Yeah.
Especially when we see the survey, we're like, oh yeah, we should be fine.
Yeah. So what did they come to you with? This is what was their wish list? What did they say? This is what we want.
Yeah, so originally, this was a really good collaboration with the homeowner, where as I recommended things, they kind of said yes or no, or what our ideas are. But when they came to us, they were thinking pool, hot tub, deck, the essentials, right? The trifecta that people usually go for is pool, deck, patio. That's kind of what I need. And so I came into this with a little bit of a blank slate. They were like, hey, that's kind of what we want. How do we make that work in our backyard? And their backyard, lower than the patio is
Right.
there where we are now, but it's still got a little bit of a change of grade.
Yeah, run from one end to the other.
Yeah, it's still got a slope, and a lot of times people see that as a negative because they can't quite comprehend where the pool's going to be. But to you and I, or to designers, we see it as a great use of elevations.
Levels, baby.
Exactly, elevations. People were drawn to that. We like elevations changes, and so I've done designs like this before, where with enough height, the pool itself, for example, can be a perfect kind of bar top area for the homeowner. Okay, we start with that. We get a rectangular pool bar top area. That then spreads out. What can we do behind a bar top? We can do a kitchen. Okay, over our kitchen, we need a little bit of shade. We get a shade structure. And so it starts to kind of piece together that way. And the homeowners were awesome. They followed me along that ride where I was kind of pitching ideas and they were kind of chewing on it. And they were like, that sounds really, really cool. And so when we started, we started pool, hot tub, and patio. Eventually they had their input of, hey, what if we made it a little bit cleaner? So the hot tub made its way inside the pool where it's just the perfect rectangle.
Yeah.
As a designer as well, we always want to pitch when we see a elevation drop behind the pool, we think negative edge or vanishing edge, right? There's the mother of all features is the pool kind of pouring out into another smaller pool, the catch basin. And so I had pitched that idea just because it would be a crime not to suggest it, right? I always tell homeowners, I would have failed you if you went to another pool, came back to me and said, Esteban, I wish you would have shown me that.
Right.
I would fall to my knees wherever I'm standing and say no. And so, and so I did pitch that to them. We were kind of playing with the idea, and it didn't quite fit right with what they were looking for. And so in the design, you'll see the remnant of what was the vanishing edge and now a faux vanishing edge.
Yeah.
So instead of it being, low enough for the water to spill out, it comes up to pretty much the height of the beam. And so it looks like water can be pouring out of it, but you'd have to displace a good amount of water for it to really fall out of it. But it looks beautiful.
Yeah. Not any coping on that backside, right? You come up to this pretty edge, you get the tile coming up the wall, but you don't have the look of the coping on the backside.
Right.
Like, oh, it looks really nice.
Right. It looks really slick, especially with the view that they have just kind of the woods behind them.
Yeah.
I thought it was perfect. The finishing touch on this one that is kind of silently one of my favorites is the stone patio cap that we have on it.
Mm-hmm.
I think when we can fit this into the budget for homeowners, when they can fit into their budget,
Yep.
There's nothing like it. It's such a nice touch.
And this one carries, we're sitting on the back porch up here, but we talk, I was like, levels, that's the fun part. We're up here on the back patio. There's a staircase that goes down both ways, one to the yard, one to the deck. And the coping cap, this is a Versailles pattern, which is different sizes and shapes of, squares and rectangles that fit together, kind of a repeating pattern, but it goes down the steps to the pool deck, down under the kitchen, all the way down the length of the pool. It is beautiful.
Yeah, it's super slick, and we matched it to the pool coping, so it kind of starts at the coping and spreads out to the rest of the project, so it's super cohesive. I always play with homeowners, or not play with homeowners, but one of my ideas that I like to kind of stick to is a rule of 3 when it comes to materials. It's kind of like when you dress up for work, you wear your blue jeans, your black shirt, and your white shoes. You throw one extra color in there and it can kind of mess with the balance of it. It's kind of how I work with pools is we have our interior, we've got our tile, we've got our coping, and often, whatever goes on the top on the deck coating often will kind of blend into the coping.
Yeah.
So oftentimes if you throw in a 4th color, let's say a wacky, different thing, it can kind of throw the balance off. And so this one worked really well. It's super slick in that it's just kind of the coping everywhere. And then you've got the blue of the pool. It's kind of just those two.
Yeah.
So it's very, very clean.
So you said the structure wasn't part of it in the beginning. They just wanted the pool, the spa, the patio. How did that come to be a part of the design?
Yeah, so the structure itself, it started when we were designing the kitchen because we have the pool, right? The necessity of this is pool. And so as it came together, I pitched the idea, what if we did outdoor kitchen? We had talked about an outdoor kitchen. Well, when you're standing in an outdoor kitchen, with how they emphasize wanting to use this as, true lounging space, hosting space. And as we discussed it, we thought it would be pretty bad for a group of people to be hanging out by the kitchen where you're going to congregate and just to have your heads burning in the sun as we would be today. And so we always cycle through our ideas of something over your head, starting with a pergola, which is open roof. It's kind of the crosshatch pattern.
Mhm.
That one often doesn't work for homeowners just because it doesn't give you a true shade or cover from the elements. So we went ahead and put something solid over it. And so it kind of just started with that, just a roof structure over you, your outdoor kitchen. And as they talked to me more about it, Esteban, how do we use the space a little bit more? How do we get more out of the space? If I'm hanging down there with my wife and we're hanging out with friends, is there any way we can make this a little bit larger and more multi-use? And I said, yeah, absolutely. We started with a fire pit kind of in the middle because typically that's how you use a fire pit. You kind of gather around it.
Right.
We started with that and then open air behind it. And as you look at the design, you'll see that eventually made its way into that wall where you're kind of backing up into a wall. And I like the design because it kind of has an end point to the project. You have your patio on this space, and at the very back end, you have your end point, which is the TV wall, we'll call it, with the fire pit under it. And so it made it perfect. So if you're standing at the bar or if you swim up to that bar, you're looking right at that TV. If you're at the bar, you can turn around and watch TV. So it just in my opinion, it's a very smart use of the space. As there isn't any sort of hiccup in there where you're like kind of have to look around something to look at the TV, or I got something's in my way to look at the TV. So it flows really, really well. And so the kind of finishing touch we did to the roof structure is, as everybody can see, is the rain curtain. I thought, what if we just kind of overhang it a little bit more? Obviously past the people so the water's not falling into their face, but just enough to clear them so they have this really neat feature. Kind of with the vanishing edges, we want to show people as many features as they may benefit from, and that was one of them. Is, hey, this would be really cool. Which is a lot of the times what my designs come down to is, hey, this would be really cool if we did this thing, and you let me know if you hate it or you love it. And they loved it. And of course, a lot of work goes into making sure that all these items that we're talking about make sense.
Yeah. I feel like you've talked about a lot of things. The other thing here is the integration of planters, raised beds, landscaping into the space. I really like that fire pit. That it's like a double-sided fireplace almost. It's just gas, so it doesn't have a flue and
Right.
a chimney. But there's a lot here as I look at it that if you told me, yeah, they came with the idea, we just want a pool and a spa and some patio, I look around and go, man, between the railing, the custom railing, wrought iron, the paver deck, the use of landscape and beds, raised beds, a sunken bar, outdoor kitchen, fire pit, fireplace, and this structure is substantial.
Yeah.
I was looking at the beams on the way in. They're 8x8 steel columns, rather, and then you have a single slope with a standing seam metal roof, like it's a metal roof that doesn't have any exposed fasteners, so they last a long time. You're looking at structural steel in there, so it's not the upkeep of wood. The fireplace, the back wall is stucco, so you don't really have anything on here except for the tongue and groove underneath the ceiling of that structure that requires a ton of maintenance over time either.
Right.
If you told me, yeah, they came in here with wanting a pool and a spa and a deck, I'm like, man, that's what they wanted. They came away with a project that incorporated a ton of things.
Right.
I feel like together, you and them brought that to the table and really finished this thing in a way that was much bigger than the initial vision, I think.
Right. The homeowners were awesome. Their ideas were great too. As I pitched them ideas, they kind of, every idea that I have is a fork in the road. You like it or you don't, or maybe you kind of tweak it. Like, hey, Esteban, we like that idea. What if we did this to it? So we collaborated really, really well on a project like this. And that's kind of the give and the take of the nature of our job, is to kind of, we have these great ideas, and then homeowners come in and they have their input, and it flows really, really well. But yeah, it's a beautiful design, and a lot of it too, a lot of the things that you just described were design choices, but also dictated by requirements in this area, in Lakeway. Same thing with a lot of parts of building a pool, is things come together because of requirements in place. So you mentioned the roof on this one. There was no other roof we could use because it has to match the house.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of things that part of the things you have to take into consideration when making these designs is, hey, here's this roof, and which is kind of where we started. We had a different color on this, because we had seen somebody in the neighborhood that had that particular color, and the HOA said, you can't do that. They said it has to look exactly like the house does, which fortunately the house looks beautiful. So, we were able to incorporate that. And there was a funny detail. So the color of that structure, that color only exists in one place on this house, which we clung on to for dear life because it's a little bit lighter than these handrails. These handrails are black. That's a light brown. Everything else is black. And so the homeowners are like, we really like that color. It's beautiful. And in the front of the house, there's these little holes punched into the this kind of fascia, and they have these little metal bars that are that color. And so that was part of the thing that went into the design is kind of finding, how do we make this work? And I said, hey, look, HOA, this is where we have that color. So technically this is within that palette, and it was approved.
That's awesome.
So a lot of the work that went into this and the ideas and the intentions behind the design were things that we liked, requirements, how do we blend the two together harmoniously?
That's awesome, man. Well, I will tell you, it's a beautiful project with a lot of pieces. And the thing that's so impressive to me is that we did it in a space that some people would come back in the backyard and go, I don't know how big of a project or how much you can get back here.
Right.
Or like, I feel like they got an absolutely beautiful project, and it took some vision to get it here. So great job. The homeowners did a great job.
Yeah, they did a
Vision, and you helped bring it to life. So
yeah, absolutely.
all right, man. Appreciate you being here with us again. I think we would do it an injustice if we didn't take some time to walk around and kind of film some of the parts. I think we'll do that here in a little bit, but
let's do it.
But thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Appreciate you. Hey guys, one more time here with Esteban. Esteban has brought us some really cool designs. We've seen some neat stuff that he's done, but we've got a team full of folks that can do that. If you like this information that we're bringing you, these projects, if you see something that you're interested in, give us a follow. We've got a lot of other media out there with good ideas for you, and hopefully some fresh ideas. So give us a like, give us a subscribe, and we'll keep coming with great content for you.